Over the years, there have been tons of Yu-Gi-Oh cards created and sent out into the world. Some are great, some not so much, and some lie in between. And that's where this series comes in handy, exploring those cards that aren't too good or too bad to see the light. So welcome to the unknown side of Yu-Gi-Oh! In this episode, we're going to go over the Flower Cardian archetype, so let's dive in. The Flower Cardians are an archetype used by Chojiro in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 anime. The archetype of Dark Warrior monsters are all based on Hanafuda cards, which are a type of playing card. Each face of the card has either plants, animals, birds, or man-made objects, and one card in the deck depicts a person. The suits of the cards always depict some type of plant life, while the cards themselves have the animals, birds, humans, or the man-made objects. There are 48 cards total, divided into 12 suits, representing months of the year, and each suit is designated by a flower. So, for example, January is represented by the pine tree, February by the plum blossom, and March by the cherry blossom. Each Flower Cardian's level is a reflection of the month, represented by the suit. So, going back to our example for January, the first month has the level 1 Flower Cardian Pine, and Flower Cardian Pine with Crane. Each Hanafuda card has a suit and a card itself. Additionally, in the game, each Hanafuda card has a point value, and the corresponding Yu-Gi-Oh card's attack and defense points are a reflection of the point value, being 100 times the points. So, the Kasu, or the 1-point versions of the Pine suit Hanafuda's card monster variant, Flower Cardian Pine, has only 100 attack and defense points because 1 times 100 is, well, 100. But on the other hand, the Hikari, or 20-point card of the Pine suit is Crane and Sun, while the Yu-Gi-Oh variant, Flower Cardian Pine with Crane, has a whopping 2,000 attack and defense because, you guessed it, 20 times 100 is 2,000. But more than the translation of one card game to another, in each of the arts of the Cardians, they actually reference another Yu-Gi-Oh card or two. So in this episode, we're going to be diving into which Flower Cardians showcase which cards. And if you want some added fun, try to guess which card they reference before I reveal the answer. So let's start with the cards that we've already mentioned, and the first of the Flower Cardians, Flower Cardian Pine and Flower Cardian Pine with Crane. Both are level 1 dark monsters. Pine has a measly 100 attack and defense points due to its Hanafuda counterpart being only worth 1 point, while Pine and Crane has 2,000 attack and defense. Pine has the effect that on normal summon, you can draw 1 card, then show it to your opponent. If the card wasn't a Flower Cardian monster, the monster gets sent to the graveyard. Additionally, if Pine is destroyed by battle or effect, you can draw 1 card. On the other hand, Pine with Crane has a bit of a different effect. It can't be normal summoned and must be special summoned by attributing another level 1 Flower Cardian monster. Then comes with the same draw effect as the 1-point version, that you can draw a card, and if it's a Flower Cardian monster, you don't have to discard it. Lastly, if Pine with Crane battle this turn, you can draw an additional card. Now, you may have noticed that the effects of the two cards are really similar and rely on each other, and you'd be 100% right. See, the Flower Cardian strategy revolves around attributing Flower Cardian monsters that are worth 1 point to special summon stronger 20-point versions of the cards. And on the summon of the stronger version, you can draw a card, which basically means if you keep drawing Flower Cardian monsters, you can get through your deck pretty easily. Almost like when the Pharaoh was dueling Weevil in the anime, and while his Break of the Magical Warrior was under the effects of Berserker Soul, kept attacking Weevil after his life points hit 0 because he just kept drawing monster after monster. But essentially, you can combo up pretty hard if you keep drawing into your Flower Cardian monsters. Flower Cardian Pine with Crane has in its artwork the level 3 Earth monster, Crane. This winged beast with a low 300 attack and 900 defense points has the effect of normal summon to target any level 3 monster in your graveyard and special summon it, but its effects are negated. So essentially, it's a free level 3 XC summon, which is pretty fitting given the era it came out in that Crane came out in 2013, in the midst of the XC's era. Despite the colors of Pine with Crane and Crane not being the exact same, it's indisputable that between the name and the design of the Pine with Crane being a crane with, well, a crane on its neck, make it undoubtedly Crane. It's lucky that Konami created Crane all those years ago when they came up with the design for the Flower Cardians, as outside of the normal card, the 20-point Pine card is Crane and Sun, which matches to Crane perfectly. Next up are the Cherry Blossom monsters, which are representative of the month of March and subsequently are level 3. The Flower Cardian equivalents are Flower Cardian Cherry Blossom and Flower Cardian Cherry Blossom with Curtain. Cherry Blossom only has 100 attack and defense points, and on top of that, the archetypal drawing effect can special summon itself from your hand if you control a level 2 or lower Flower Cardian monster. Now, it's a little tricky to pin down which other Yu-Gi-Oh card is being featured in Cherry Blossom is none other than Naturia Beetle, with some additional cherry blossoms sprouting from its tree trunk horn. On the other hand, there's Flower Cardian Cherry Blossom with Curtain, which is worth 20 points, meaning it's in at 2,000 attack and defense. Cherry Blossom with Curtain has the archetypal effect, like all the other 20-point cards of the archetype, that being it's special summoned by its own effect, which is you gotta reveal a Cherry Blossom with Curtain from your hand, draw 1 card, then if it's a Flower Cardian, you get a special summon it. Then Cherry Blossom with Curtain has its own effect, that during either player's damage step when any Flower Cardian monster attacks, you can discard this card to let the attacking monster gain 1000 attack until the end of the turn, which is typically enough to change the outcome of a battle. In terms of showcased cards, this one is quite the old school card, but is still quite fitting. This is the artwork of Curtain of the Dark Ones, a level 2 dark spellcaster normal monster with a flavor text, a curtain that a spellcaster made. It is said to raise a dark power. But with only 600 attack and 500 defense, I doubt anything too scary will emerge from the curtain. Well, eventually, something actually does emerge from the curtain. See, Curtain of the Dark Ones is a specific fusion material for Camion Wizard, a level 4 dark spellcaster fusion with a terrifying 1300 attack and 1100 defense, with no effect other than its fusion requirements of Mystical Elf and Curtain of the Dark Ones. Camion Wizard suffers from the same fate as all early Yu-Gi-Oh! Fusion monsters, as being a terrible beatstick that requires too many resources to make any sort of use out of. What's funny is that it's probably significantly better to have a Mystical Elf, its fusion material, on the field and defense position rather than Camion Wizard itself. But regardless, Curtain of the Dark Ones is still featured on the artwork of the Flower Cardians card, so it's a nice callback to at least an old school card. Next is the only main deck level 6 monster in the archetype, Flower Cardian Peony with Butterfly, which shares the Hanafuda suit of the Peony card. The Butterfly aspect of this card comes from the 10-point card, the Tane of the suit, which are butterflies. Being the only level 6 card, Peony with Butterflies has a somewhat different effect than the other Flower Cardian monsters, but still plays well within the archetype. The Warrior Tuner monster has 1000 attack and defense, and has the effect that it has to be special summoned by tributing a Flower Cardian monster. On its special summon, you can draw a card, then if it's a Flower Cardian, you can either look and rearrange, or place at the bottom of the deck the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. Additionally, when it's used as a synchro material, you treat Peony with Butterflies as well as all of the materials as level 2 monsters, which can make summoning synchro monsters with high material counts easy. Now, onto the Butterfly aspect of Peony with Butterfly, and despite there being a pretty low amount of cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! As a whole that are butterflies, the ones showcases of the Flower Cardian stand out as pretty unique. They are, of course, Blazewing Butterfly, the Gemini insect monster with 1500 attack and defense that came out in the early days of Gemini monsters. Gemini monsters are both normal and effect monsters, but to receive their effects they need to be normal summoned once more. In the case of Blazewing Butterfly, its Gemini effect is that it contributes itself to special summon any Gemini monster from your graveyard, and it will gain its effect instantly. Next up is another card exclusive to its level, the level 7 Flower Cardian Clover with Boar, which has the Bush Clover suit and has a boar as its Tane point value, just like Peony with Butterfly. But this is really where the similarities end between the two. Clover with Boar isn't a tuner, nor has a similar effect. Clover with Boar is more on the offensive side of things. It has the same archetype summon condition as the rest, but on the reveal that the card drawn is a Flower Cardian, you can destroy a monster your opponent controls. In terms of reference cards, it's none other than Boar Soldier, which is an old Yu-Gi-Oh! Card for sure due to its terrible effect. This level 4 Earth Beast Warrior monster has a strong 2000 attack and 500 defense. But despite having high attack points, which was great for early Yu-Gi-Oh!, that falls apart really quickly once you read Boar Soldier's effect. See, when Boar Soldier is normal summoned, it destroys itself. On top of that, if you put enough resources into special summoning it, if your opponent controls 1 or more monsters, Boar Soldier loses 1000 attack points per. So it's not even worth bringing back from the graveyard. So what purposes does Boar Soldier fulfill? It beats me, so if you guys know of a non-skilled range strat, let me know down in the comments below. But moving on, we have the level 8 duo. The 8th suit of the Flower Cardians, or the level 8s, are represented by Zebragrass, and currently in the archetype, there are only 2 cards of that suit, the 1 point and the 20 point cards. With regards to the Hanafuda cards, there's just the normal Zebragrass, and then there's Full Moon with Red Sky, which is the 20 point variant, and the same goes for the Flower Cardian cards. There's Flower Cardian Zebragrass, and then there's Zebragrass with the Moon. Let's start with the lesser point total of the two, Flower Cardian Zebragrass. For the 1 point, the level 8 monster has 100 attack and defense, and has the effect that while you control a level 7 or lower Flower Cardian monster, you can special summon Zebragrass from your hand. Although this locks you into only being able to summon Flower Cardian monsters, it still plays well into the archetype. On Zebragrass's summon, either normal or special, you can essentially Magic Mallet your hand. By that I mean you can reveal any number of Flower Cardian monsters from your hand and then shuffle them to the deck and then draw the same number of cards. Now, the monster in Zebragrass isn't in the flowers, but it's the Fisheye Lens looking at Naturia Cosmobeat. The popular plant tuner monster from the forest creature archetype has the simple but strong effect that when your opponent normal summons a monster, you can special summon Cosmobeat from your hand. On the other hand, there's Zebragrass with the Moon. This level 8 Dark Warrior monster must first be special summoned by tributing a level 8 Flower Cardian monster. On its summon, you can draw 1 card, and if it's a Flower Cardian monster, you can special summon it. Additionally, there's a once per turn effect that if Zebra Grass with Moon destroys a monster by battle, you can draw a card. Now, other than what seems to be the backside of nature or Cosmobeat, there's also the black orb in the back, which is meant to be the moon. But that's no moon, that's the Wicked Avatar, the level 11 Dark Fiend monster, the Wicked Gods. The Wicked Gods are an archetype that were dark counterparts to the Egyptian god cards. There's the Wicked Eraser, which is Slifer the Sky Dragon's counterpart. There's the Wicked Dreadroot, which is Obelisk the Tormentor's other half. And then there's the aforementioned Wicked Avatar, which is the Winged Dragon of Ra's counterpart. Each of the Wicked Gods has a pretty fun, unique effect, and the Wicked Avatar is by far the most fun. See, the orb has question mark for its attack and defense point value, and its attack and defense change depending on what's on the field. The effect specifically reads that this card's attack and defense are equal to the highest attack on the field plus 100, except for the Wicked Avatar. This essentially means that you aren't beating over the Avatar anytime soon. And that last clause is just so that there aren't any quirky infinite attack point loops that are created. But on top of the attack and defense boosting effect, after the Wicked Avatar is summoned, your opponent can't activate spells or traps until the second turn after the Avatar is summoned. The lockout effect is one of the rarest in Yu-Gi-Oh! And is currently one of the strongest out there as well. Skipping ahead is the Maple Suit, which is level 10, the 10-point card of Deer with Flower Cardian Maple with Deer. The level 10 monster is essentially a spell and trap card variant of Flower Cardian Clover with Boar, meaning it's the archetypal effect of requiring a special summon, and then on summon you draw a card. If the card's a Flower Cardian, then you can destroy a spell or trap your opponent controls. Flower Cardian Maple with Deer showcases the mythical beast of the forest, Valerie Fawn. This level 2 Earth Beast tuner is a staple for a lot of beast type decks for its strong effect, which allows you to discard a card to special summon a level 2 or lower beast monster from your grave. With its effect, it has the rare opportunity that allows you to choose whether to summon it in either attack or face down defense position. Most special summon effects typically leave the monster either face up, but rarely face down like Valor Fawn. Moving on, we have the 11th suit, the Willow Tree. In terms of Flower Cardians, there's a 1-point and 20-point card that exists within the archetype, which are just Flower Cardian Willow and Flower Cardian Willow with Calligrapher. And as always, let's start with the lower point total first. Flower Cardian Willow is a level 11 Dark Warrior with 100 attack and defense, and can special summon itself from your hand while you control a level 10 or lower Flower Cardian monster, at the cost of locking to the archetype for special summons. Willow has an additional effect, which isn't related to drawing into a Flower Cardian monster, in that, once per turn, you can shuffle a Flower Cardian monster from your graveyard into your deck and draw one card. So Willow is a great recycling tool for the archetype. Also, fun fact about Flower Cardian Willow, it was the first level 11 monster that was able to be normal summoned. Typically, monsters at the high level have some unique summon conditions, but Willow was the exception. Willow features the infamous Giant Trunade in its artwork, and it's the first of the Flower Cardians to feature a spell card in their monster card. Speaking of, a Giant Trunade is a simple spell card that when activated, returns all spells and traps on the field to the hand. Now onto Flower Cardian Willow with Calligrapher. Like Willow, this is a level 11 Dark Warrior monster. But Willow with Calligrapher is not only a tuner, but the highest level tuner in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, Willow with Calligrapher follows the archetype pretty well with its effect. It must first be special summoned by tributing a level 11 or lower Flower Cardian monster. Then on summon, you can draw a card, and if it's a Flower Cardian, you can special summon it. Last, if this card is used for a synchro material, you can treat it as well as any other materials as level 2 monsters. In terms of featured cards, Flower Cardian Willow with Calligrapher has 2 different cards in its art. There's Poison Draw Frog, a level 2 Aqua monster with the effect that when it's face up and sent to the graveyard, unless it was attacked while face down and destroyed by battle, you can draw a card. Poison Draw Frog is certainly unique in its effect, mainly in the wording, as few cards have the specific phrasing of unless it was attacked while face down and destroyed by battle. On top of that, Poison Draw Frog is one of the few Yu-Gi-Oh cards that references the fact that Yu-Gi-Oh exists. As you can see, its tongue is latched onto a card, which is why you should always sleeve your cards, just in case Poison Draw Frog attacks your locals. The other member of this duo is surprisingly a synchro monster of the Flower Cardians, Flower Cardian Light Shower. This level 8 synchro monster requires generic materials, but a lot of them with the total requirements being 1 tuner and 3 non-tuner monsters. Light Shower has a couple effects attached to it. First is protection for the Flower Cardian monsters, specifically that they can't be targeted nor destroyed by card effects. Then, during your opponent's draw phase, once they draw a card for their normal draw, you inflict 1500 points of damage to them. However, the cost of setting your opponent on a timer is that at the end phase, you can either skip the draw phase of your next turn, or negate Light Shower's effects until your opponent's next standby phase. With this effect, funnily enough, you can lock the game into an unplayable state. You and your opponent just need a Light Shower each, with each effects activating having 1500 life points remaining. Neither player will destroy the other's Light Shower, and the 2 players keep choosing the draw phase skipping effect to prolong the duel. However, that's why time limits exist, which deals with this kind of loop. Last is the month or suit of December, the Palonia, which has 2 cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! A 1-point and 20-point card. Flower Cardian Palonia, and Flower Cardian Palonia with Phoenix. And keeping with tradition, let's start with the lesser point value total, with the Flower Cardian Palonia, which isn't anything special. It has the classic archetypal effect to special summon itself while you control a lower level Flower Cardian monster. And its unique effect is that when it's targeted for an attack, you can negate it and end the battle phase and then draw a card. Palonia features quite an old Yugioh card and Tentacle Plant. This level 2 water plant normal monster has a quite unbearable stat of 500 attack and 600 defense. Although the monster itself isn't good by any measure, it's still just nice to see Konami referencing old, forgotten cards. On the other hand, there's Palonia with Phoenix. It has the same archetypal effect as the rest of the 20-point cards, and its unique feature is that once per turn, when it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can draw a card. The card featured on Palonia with Phoenix is none other than Fengguan. This level 6 Fire Attribute Wing Beast Spirit monster has 2100 attack and 1800 defense, and comes with the effect where it can't be special summoned, and during the end phase it must return to the hand as all spirit cards do. Its other non-card type effect is that when it's normal summoned, you can destroy all set spells and traps your opponent controls. So definitely a card for older Yu-Gi-Oh! Where the pace of the game was a lot slower. And that covers the main deck monsters of the Flower Cardians. But now, let's quickly go over the 4 extra deck monsters of the archetype, as their synchro summoning requirements are based on the combos of a different card game that uses the Hanafuda cards, called Koi Koi. There's the Ame Shiko combo, which is any 4 20-point cards that includes an Ono no Michikaze, which synchro summons into Flower Cardian Light Shower, which you already covered. But in short, the combo relates to the synchro materials as it's a 4 20-point card, and the requirements for Light Shower is 1 tuner and 3 non-tuner monsters. Next is a Goko combo, which is all 5 20-point cards, which lets you synchro summon the level 10 Flower Cardian Light Flare. The Dark Warrior synchro monster has an immense 5000 attack, and requires 1 tuner and 4 non-tuners, like the combo. Light Flare has the effect that during either player's turn when your opponent activates a spell or trap card, you can negate and destroy it. Then, if any Flower Cardian monster battles, you can negate your opponent's monster's effects, which helps a lot about the battle-related effects of the Flower Cardian monsters. Last, if Light Flare leaves the field due to an opponent's card, you can special summon any Flower Cardian synchro from the extra deck except another copy of Light Flare. Not only does Light Flare have the highest attack of any synchro or warrior monster up to date, but also it's the first to require exactly 4 non-tuners and have a total of 5 materials needed for its synchro summon. Next up is Flower Cardian Boardfly, which requires the Boar, the Deer, and the Butterfly cards, or in Yu-Gi-Oh terms, 1 tuner and 2 non-tuner monsters. With a pretty on-theme stat line of 2000 attack and 2000 defense, this level 6 synchro monster has a pretty strong lockout effect on top of giving piercing damage to your Flower Cardian monsters. Once per turn, you can banish a Flower Cardian monster from your grave, and until your opponent's next turn, they can't activate effects from the graveyard, nor special summon from the grave. The combo is pretty unique with it requiring 3 specific cards, which is why the English name for the card is a combination of the Boar, the Deer, and the Butterfly. The payoff for such a specific combo is quite good if the transition to a Yu-Gi-Oh card is equally strong. Last up is the combinations for both the Tsukimi Zake and the Hanami Zake, which are another specific combo. The Tsukimi Zake is the Moon and the Snake Cup cards, while the Hanami Zake is the Sakura Curtain and Snake Cup cards. Now previously I did mention there was a Flower Cardian for the Sake Cup, and that's true as it hasn't been given a Yu-Gi-Oh variant as of yet, but it's the 9th suit, meaning it's representative of September in the Chrysanthemum flower. The synchro monster represented both the alcoholic combos and Flower Cardian Moonflower viewing, which is a level 6 synchro that requires 1 tuner and 2 non-tuners and has 2000 attack and defense. On a once per turn effect, you can draw a card, and if it's a Flower Cardian monster, you can ignore its summoning conditions and special summon it. On top of that, the special summon monster can attack directly. However, the cost of using this powerful effect is that next turn you have to skip your draw phase. Regardless, this allows a variety of battle-related effects that the other Flower Cardians have. Last is that if Moonflower viewing is used as a synchro material, it and the other materials can be treated as level 2 monsters. And that's it for today's episode of The Unknown Side of Yu-Gi-Oh! If you have any other cards or archetypes you'd like for us to cover, let us know down in the comments below.